Hello and welcome to Education in Focus, powered by Chalkboard News. I'm Dan McCaleb, Vice President of News and Content at the Franklin News Foundation, which publishes chalkboardnews.com. Chalkboard is a news website dedicated to issues related to K-12 education. We are recording this on Monday, March 25th. A school district in Louisville, Kentucky received bomb threats at 4 different schools last week. Each of the bomb threats were false alarms, as they usually are, but these schools are still disrupted for long periods of time as law enforcement and emergency services investigate. These incidents highlight the rising rates of what's called swatting, a hoax call that shuts down schools and scares students and their families. Joining me today to discuss this is Chalkboard's K-12 editor, Brendan Clary. Brendan, tell us about the swatting incidents nationwide, specifically what happened in Louisville last week.
Yes, so it's 4 different schools at Jefferson County Public Schools, Dan, and that's Atherton High School, Ballard High School, Westport Middle School, and Wilder Elementary School. And basically what happens is somebody will call law enforcement and they'll say, hey, there is a bomb in a school. And it's not true. They're saying that. And then what the goal is in that case is to send a, very weaponized SWAT team to the school to cause confusion and alarm, and that's swatting. So there's a couple. I've talked to a number of professionals, experts on this, law enforcement people about this with my reporting on swatting. And essentially, swatting is a little bit different than just like a regular hoax call because you're usually calling it law enforcement, and so the people at the school, the administrators, teachers, students, they don't know that it's coming, right? But if you call a school and you say, hey, I've placed a device there, something like that, that's a hoax threat, right? If you say that you've done that and you haven't, that's a hoax threat. So the swatting is a specific type of hoax threat. And in terms of how the FBI defines swatting, that's like the sort of technicality there, right, Dan? So it's a national trend. We've been seeing this all the time, right? Where you have schools that are closed down or shut down, and it's because of a hoax threat made to law enforcement or directly at the school. And this one in particular, the school district's police, they said that this was part of a nationwide swatting situation that was taking place last week. So there's other schools that were reporting similar kinds of thing, like a bomb threat in Massachusetts, in Boston, Massachusetts, and some other ones in Kentucky. So it's really just like it's a growing problem, right? And it's a very complex one, Dan, because if you get a call from someone saying, hey, that there is a device in school, how do you not respond to that, right? Because of in the situation that it might be real, right? So it's a drain on public resources. These law enforcement officers are spending their time, and they're actually jeopardizing their safety because they're going as fast as they possibly can toward what they think is an active situation, whether that's like a threat of a shooter or a bomb or something like that, and at these schools, which are filled with our children, right? So it's a very sort of complex issue here, and there's not really a lot of ways to sort of crack down on it. And that's kind of the understanding that I've gotten from talking with the FBI. They are tracking it now, Dan. As of last year, they've started to have like a centralized database. And in this particular story, they didn't comment in time for publication about the updated numbers for this year. So we'll be following this and seeing how many swatting calls there have been this year. But that's sort of the in a nutshell what's going on.
So, Brennan, I know you've been covering this issue of swatting in schools for over a year now, and they seem to be happening everywhere. This specific example out of Louisville, Kentucky, with 4 in 1 week, that's something I hadn't heard of either. Obviously, it's against the law to make these swatting calls. Have you heard or have any context for our law enforcement charging? Are they identifying the callers and charging them with crimes? How's that work? Yeah,
so that's a great question. They have identified the callers, and they say if you call this in and it's across state lines, it's like a federal crime. So if you're like, even it doesn't matter if you're a 16-year-old kid, they'll find you and they will track you down and they will charge you they'll prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And I think they will do that to make an example out of you. And they've told me that as such, like that, they will do this and that they can do that. And so if if you're in Massachusetts, for example, and you call across state lines, that is a federal crime. They also have said that it's difficult, and from some of the reporting that I've done, it's difficult to track down some of these because of the burgeoning use of AI, different kinds of technological things that anonymize users. So, like on Telegram, which is like an anonymous platform. Basically, there is, swatting as a service. Basically, it's like an anonymous thing where you could actually pay to have somebody make a SWAT call using AI, it sounds like. So that's something that has been reported. That's kind of on the edge of this new technology that we have. So that makes it, I think, a little bit more difficult. Also, the FBI has alluded to foreign actors, right? So that's something that is a little bit less defined, but like that these are maybe even are coming from overseas and that they're using sort of our infrastructure against us. So, you can call 911, you can have an emergency response, and these foreign actors know this, and they're able to make these calls using maybe like a voice like a call forwarding system. So it looks like you're making it from a local phone, but really you're in a nation that is very far away. So I think that's also a play here, Dan, is like it's sort of this rising international infrastructure warfare.
Certainly a disturbing trend, Brendan, one I know you'll stay on top of at the chalkboardnews.com. I do hope law enforcement is able to track down as many of these folks as possible. I guess with their in foreign countries hacking into U.S. infrastructure, it's obviously makes it more difficult on law enforcement. But as we noted up top, these hoax calls, swatting calls, as you call them, are disrupting students' lives and teachers' lives and everybody else. Brendan, thank you for joining us today to talk about this complex topic. Listeners can keep up with this story and all stories related to K through 12 education at chalkboardnews.com.
Are you tired of news that puts politics over people? At the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation, we believe in putting people over politics by delivering nonpartisan news and audio content that serves you, the American taxpayer. With Franklin News Foundation, you can read fact-based, state-focused news for free at thecentersquare.com. You can listen to civil, balanced conversations between policy experts through our podcast network at americastalking.com. Or you can get in-depth news on K-12 education spending, curriculum, and school safety at chalkboardnews.com. It's all free through Franklin, where we put you, the American taxpayer, first in every story, episode, and conversation. And it's only possible through our supporters. Together, we can produce content that puts people over politics and brings Americans the news they deserve. Become a supporter today at franklinnews.org/donate. Once again, that's franklinnews.org/donate.